But you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
Welcome to episode 6 of Constitutionally Speaking. We had problems with the Facebook Live yesterday. We had problems with Facebook Live today, but today is Tuesday, January the 9th. We are doing the show early. It is 2:21 p.m. in a cold and rainy Los Angeles. This is the 16th Amendment, Part 2. And before I get started, I have to read this disclaimer as usual. The views and opinions expressed in this webcast are those of me and do not necessarily reflect the official policy, views, or position of Facebook, YouTube, Patreon, OBS, its sponsors, advertisers. Any content provided by myself are of my opinions and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything. And welcome to Constitutionally Speaking, a freedom movement of patriots dedicated to the restoration of the limited and distant federal republic guaranteed to us by our Constitution. Constitutionally Speaking is unfolding a coordinated plan of back in its box, one tentacle at a time. The first tentacle is the IRS fraudulent, unlawful, and economically, morally, and socially destructive application of the income tax to Americans living and working here at home. America must wake up to the truth. There is no law making working Americans liable for the income tax. There is no lawful basis for treating personal earnings as 100% profit. Our right to earn a living is exempt from taxation, is as our freedom of speech is.
You're watching, so pay attention. You hate my freedom, my religion, and my country. You hate me for speaking my mind. You try to control me with violence and intimidation. You think you can muzzle me with fear? Don't ever confuse me for my politicians or my media. I am an American, free-born and free-bred, and I will call you out for who you are. An Islamic extremist who would kill me for my beliefs. You don't intimidate me. My freedom is more powerful than anything you can possibly do, and I will never surrender my rights to your terror. I will say what I think, worship according to my beliefs, and raise my children how I see fit, and I defend it all with the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. I cower to no one, because I am the National Rifle Association of America, and I am freedom's safest place.
The Constitution is very important to the state, and it shouldn't be changed lightly.
I don't like changing our Constitution because, big money comes and puts a lot of commercials on television and nobody understands it.
It's inappropriate and irresponsible. Our state's Constitution is no place for special interests.
Special interests should not try to change the Constitution. I think it's a power grab.
And once it gets into the Constitution, we're at their mercy.
I think it's a harmful situation.
I would tell the special interests to keep your hands off the Constitution and take your proposals elsewhere.
Hi, I'm David Ruprecht, host of Supermarket Sweep and a member of the Libertarian Party. You ever wonder why Republicans increase big government and Democrats waver on social issues? Well, maybe it's time you shop around for a new party. Libertarians work toward smaller government and lower taxes. Libertarians also take a principled stand on social issues, believing that you best know how to run your life. Check out the Libertarian Party. Socially tolerant, fiscally responsible.
And welcome back to Constitutionally Speaking. And Kayla, I cannot hear through these phones. You got the other? Okay. If you think this is about money, think again. This is about your freedom and your right to govern your own life, your own state, community, and county. But most of all, this is about your sole ownership of your labor and the fruits thereof. You are not a slave in whole not in part, not in any bracket of slavery. Well, there are a lot of reasons that fighting for the truth and the rule of law is more about freedom than money. 3 reasons stand out above the rest. First, by applying the income tax to those who are not liable for the tax, by taking earnings that are not taxed by the law and could not be constitutionally taxed if they were included, the IRS is bypassing the rule of law and invading your constitutionally protected fundamental right to earn a living, violating direct constitutional prohibitions against taxing your property and your labor. The Fed uses money stolen through the income tax to buy legislatures and bring states in line. Thus, the Fed, not your state representative, rules. Your state has been reduced once again to a colony of distant and indifferent government, and you are not free. Finally, and perhaps even more importantly, the power to tax is the power to destroy. If the federal government can tax one freedom, it can tax all our freedoms. If we permit them to tax our most precious and fragile assets, if all we have to keep is by the consent of the government, then we are at its mercy and you are not free. Your freedom, your right, your constitution, and the law of the land all are being violated. When the rule of man or agency is allowed to overrule the laws to which you are thought your elected representatives have consented, you are no longer being ruled by consent. You are being ruled by fear, intimidation, force, not law. You are not free. The U.S. Constitution prohibits any direct tax upon your labor or property. While federal agencies are allowed to operate above the law, only then can you be ruled by fear, intimidation, and force. You are not free. The money stolen through misapplied and abused income tax has not only enabled the federal government to expand its rule into areas reserved to you, the people, and your state. The federal government uses that stolen money to bribe your state legislatures into ignoring your will and acting state laws dictated by bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. Instead, again, you are being subject to rule and regulation to which you have not consented. In short, the federal government, not you and not your representative, rule your state government. As well, your state has been reduced once again to a colony of a distant and indifferent government, and you are not free.
The complete solution for restoring America's prosperity, credibility, and freedom is so simple, you can put the pieces together yourself. Ron Paul's Campaign for Liberty promotes constitutional government, individual liberty, sound money, free markets, and a non-interventionist foreign policy. We welcome your participation. Join us at campaignforliberty.com.
Hi, my name is Randy Stufflebeam, and I'm a retired gunnery sergeant who spent 22 years on active duty in the Marine Corps. It wasn't long after I retired that I discovered the betrayal of my service by both of the major political parties. Have you discovered this betrayal for yourself? Then join me in the Constitution Party, America's third largest party in the nation, and help me to elect those with a true fidelity to the Constitution. Hi, I'm your constitutional evangelist, Randy Stufflebeam. Let me ask you something. Do you know what a duopoly is? A duopoly is just like a monopoly, except instead of having only one control of the market, you have two. And this is doubly bad because, one, there's a larger spread of control, and two, there's still the appearance of competition. Well, that's exactly what we have with the two major political parties. It's the left wing and the right wing of the same bird flying the wrong direction. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, yet expecting different results. There's a debate as to who said this, Benjamin Franklin or Albert Einstein. Regardless, it does not diminish the truism. It's time to do something different. It's time to destroy the two-party duopoly so that we can have true competition in the market. Join me in the Constitution Party, America's third largest party in the nation, and help to elect those who have a true fidelity to the Constitution.
Is the income tax constitutional? Well, let's look at Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution. You can get these on eBay for anywhere from 1 cent to $1. But so to be easier to read, I'm going to bring it up on the computer screen. Okay. Article 6, U.S. Constitution, Article 6. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuant thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. It goes on to say, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby anything in the Constitution or laws any state to the contrary notwithstanding. The Constitution says that federal laws that are made according to the Constitution are supreme laws. That means that state laws that go against federal laws are not valid. Every court must follow the federal law before state law. And we could use sanctuary cities, which goes against federal law, and the courts have to strike it down. The Constitution is the highest ruling document and governing law in the U.S. It not only states U.S. citizens have to abide by it, but the federal officers as well as judges in the U.S. are also required to follow and to govern, following the rules and regulations that are set forth in the Constitution. Basically states that all federal laws that are compromised and make up the U.S. Constitution are governing laws, and the supreme laws are those that must be followed by all U.S. citizens, and even state law dictates that federal law statutes, the state law will be interpreted by federal law regardless of which came first. It also dictates that the state courts, regardless of belief or laws, and the state must abide by federal laws. But there is a conflict among them. There are several federal and state issues that contradict one another, and they have been throughout history. Regardless of this issue, or what kind of debate it is, if a federal and state law contradict that other says, the Supremacy Clause basically states that the states can't abide by their own state law and must follow the federal regulations on any subject matter. In other words, this means that if state law and federal law are in conflict or inconsistent with each other, the provisions of federal law are in control. And then it goes on to say, the senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support the Constitution. This basically states that elected officers, any judges, any federal legislatures, any state legislatures, and any governing body or power must follow an oath prior to being able to take office in their respective practice, and must state that they will abide by all rules in the Constitution, and that the Constitution is the governing law of the U.S. Is the Constitution a living document? The Constitution is a written instrument. As such, its meaning does not alter. Now, whichever meant when adopted means now. The Supreme Court's ruling in 1905 South Carolina case, the original meaning is controlling. An unconstitutional act is not a law. Let me repeat that. An unconstitutional act is not a law. It confers no rights. It imposes no duties. It affords no protection. It creates no office. It is legal as operative as though it never passed. And that's Norton versus Shelby County, 1886. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excise taxes, to pay the debts, and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. So, what are excise taxes? Okay, they're manufacturing, alcohol, cigarettes, corporations, gas, just about everything you buy. Impost and duty fees are import taxes or tariffs, as you might have heard about. So what about any limitations on taxes? Well, let's go to Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census and remuneration herein before directed to be taken. In other words, no direct tax. Is the income tax a direct tax? I would say without question it is. They're coming directly to your door. They call you by your name. They write your name on a piece of paper and mail it to you. Let's see what the difference is between a direct tax and an indirect tax. This is Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Indirect tax are those demanded in first instance from one person in expectation and intended that he shall indemnify himself at the expense of another. Direct tax, one which is demanded from the very person who is intended or desired should pay it back. Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Now, the direct tax, this sounds like the income tax to me. 16th Amendment. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived, without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census. And let's Stanton versus Baltic Mining Company, 1916. By the previous ruling, it was settled that the provision of the 16th Amendment conferred no new power of taxation, which makes the income tax illegal. That's Stanton versus Baltic Mining Company, 1916. And by the way, these court cases that I'm citing have not been overturned. So you can use these cases in court today. Now, does the income tax violate any other constitutional amendments or rights? Well, let's take a look at the 5th Amendment. No person shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. There can be no question that one who files a return under oath is a witness within the meaning of the amendment. That's Sullivan versus United States, 1926. The right of the people to be secure, this is the 4th Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their possessions, houses, papers, effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. Now, when we're talking about papers, I don't think they're talking about newspapers. I think they're talking about personal papers, bills, and other personal effects, birth certificates, and what have you. And we will be back right after these messages.
Hello everybody, Wild Bill for America here, and I see an urgent email from Trey Gowdy. The subject is, Nancy Pelosi is attacking me. Here's the message. I'll get straight to it. I've ticked off Nancy Pelosi and her buddy in Congress, Adam Schiff, and the Democrats are targeting me for defeat. Because I've been speaking the truth in Congress this past month, and always, Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff are lining up the Democrat machine to take me down next election. I will never be bullied into silence. And of course, Mr. Gowdy wants me to write him a check. Not going to happen, because frankly, Mr. Gowdy, I think you've already been bullied into silence. I cheered when you were elected to Congress because I thought that you would be a law and order kind of guy, that you would finally bring justice to the government officials who break the law with impunity. All we get out of you are some entertaining sound bites where you occasionally embarrass someone for the TV cameras. But after 5 years, you have done nothing to put an end to government criminality. It's been over 5 years since Benghazi, and not one person has been held accountable. And when you finally got Hillary Clinton on the hot seat under oath, you didn't even ask her any tough questions. Not a single person has been held accountable for Benghazi. I spoke with some former military personnel who have been solid supporters of yours, and they feel the same way I do. You have let us all down. Not just Benghazi, but the illegal targeting by the IRS, the illegal land seizures down in Nevada, fast and furious, on and on and on. And you, Mr. Gowdy, seem to have forgotten about all of them. Not a single indictment, not a single court case to restore respect for the law in Washington, D.C. As a patriotic American with a military and law enforcement background, I want you gone. You have failed the American people. You will be remembered as Soundbite Gowdy, because frankly, sir, that's all you've given us. This is Wild Bill for America. Thank you for watching, and America bless God again.
Now let's go over some of the things that are taxable. Like the royalties I get from my books, that is taxable because that is a profit. If you're working for me, like say Kayla, who's my producer, that money is not taxable. It's a trade-off. She's doing something for me, and I'm compensating her for it. If you work at McDonald's, that's not taxable. You are providing a service, and McDonald's is compensating you for it. Same thing with Burger King or any other place you might be working. If you're a songwriter, singer, rapper, the royalties you get from records and the songs you've written, that is taxable. That is a profit. If you are a lawyer, your fees are taxable. So basically, if you are a regular working person, your money is not taxable and you cannot be forced to pay an income tax. And if you fill out a return and you don't put all your money on there that you made, you are a witness against yourself. You say you made this amount of money, but the IRS says, hey, according to our records, you made this amount. You can go to jail for it. So, and when you go to court, if you don't pay taxes and you are called into court, which I have not been, I have not paid taxes since 1980, and on Facebook and Twitter and all the other places, I've been very open about not paying taxes. Don't go in there acting like a tax protester. If you do, judge ain't gonna listen to nothing you have to say. What you need to do, if you're not gonna pay taxes, take the information that I put on my Facebook page. Write down notes from these webcasts. Go into court with this information, these court cases, and you will win. If you go in there, and if you go in with people, tell them to keep their mouth shut. If they start saying income tax is unconstitutional, down they go. Judge ain't gonna listen to nothing you have to say because he's gonna lump you in as a tax protester. Tax protesters are not liked by the courts, and you will go to jail if he thinks you are a tax protester. Go into the court knowing the Constitution. These are your rights. This is not taxable income. So what else can we do about it? Acting alone, there's not much any of us can do about it. But acting together, every one of us can make a difference. We can join the thousands of truth troopers who are spreading the truth across the great land, letting the people know that the IRS is stealing their money, taking their earnings from families and households without any law permitting them to do so, robbing you and your family of the standard of living you have earned and deserve. You can learn the truth about the income tax law. You can imagine that if only half of what the federal government is stealing from you stayed in your household, how much better your family would be and how better they could live. and your community's standard and state's economy would prosper. If you and your neighbors had half of the stolen money to spend in your community and state, imagine what kind of streets, roads, schools, and government services your state and community could provide if the other half of what the federal government is stealing from you went to your state and local government. Who would answer only for it but you? You can make that image of living in freedom and a reality by joining Truth and Attack and fighting for your freedom today, tomorrow, and every day until the federal government is again your servant, not your master. And until your state government once again responds the will of its people. And we'll be back right after these messages. Gotta pay the bills.
Hello everybody, Wild Bill for America here, and I say it's time for the USA to consider something that we have not pondered for several generations: treason. United States Code Title 18, Section 2381, treason. Whoever, owing allegiance to the United States, levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death. Death penalty treason. A crime so severe that the Founding Fathers felt that it deserved the ultimate punishment. Treason. Such a serious crime, and yet the government we have today laughs it off. The most famous act of death penalty treason was Jane Fonda's visit to North Vietnam to encourage and entertain the communists who were actively killing American soldiers. Jane Fonda richly deserved to be arrested, tried, convicted, and executed, but the spineless, gutless cowards of Congress were just as afraid of the media back then as they are today. Jane Fonda walked away with no consequences for her death penalty treason, and treason has been a specialty of the Democrats ever since. Hillary Clinton being the latest, brazenly betraying her country with no concern whatsoever about being prosecuted. We watched Trey Gowdy and the others do nothing. It was Jane Fonda all over again. No wonder the American people have completely lost faith in their governments. And now we have the fascist Antifa thugs literally taking up arms against the American people. We are seeing an organized assault by these violent criminals to brutalize patriotic Americans, to destroy America's historical monuments, as a step toward bringing down the USA as a superpower. Antifa fascists and their supporters are levying war against the United States, financed by foreign enemies of the United States. Well, in my personal opinion, it's still not too late to punish Jane Fonda. Title 18, Section 2381 is exactly the statute that we should be pursuing to defend this nation. Treason is alive and well and growing in leaps and bounds, and because the government of the USA is a bunch of spineless cowards, treason is going to become more and more popular as a weapon to destroy the USA from within. I took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution from those enemies, the same oath sworn by all government officials, and that means that I also have a duty to defend this nation, and if our government doesn't have the guts or the integrity, then the millions of us who swore that oath are honor-bound to take action in defense of the nation. We are seeing a repeat of 1939 Germany being played out in the streets of America, and I say no way should such a thing be tolerated in this nation. This is America, and Americans will defend their nation. This is Wild Bill for America. Thank you for watching, and America bless God. Again.
Okay, that's going to be it for this week. Join us next, hopefully Monday night, for part 3 of the 16th Amendment. So until then, see you next week.